Choosing an appropriate method for gathering data. Problem type 1. All right, let's go ahead and read this first. So Boris wants to find the time it takes Lincoln High School students to run a lap around the track. So he will consider 55 students to find the average time. Now we get two questions. So question A, which unit could be used for the unit of measurement? Check all that apply. So we need to think of the scenario they gave us. Boris wants to find the average time it takes Lincoln High School students to run a lap. So running a lap shouldn't take you very long. And if we're thinking about the average time, we want to go with time. So we have minutes or hours, because inches, centimeters, and feet, those are length, right? So minutes or hours. Well, if you're only running one lap, it's probably going to be minutes. That makes the most sense. Which of the procedures below would be the best way to find the average time? And so we need to read through each one to figure it out. Randomly pick 55 students to run a lap around the track and measure their times. Randomly pick 55 students to run a lap around the track and have them state their own times. Ask for 55 volunteers to run a lap around the track and have them state their own times. Measure the times of 55 volunteers who ran a lap around the track. All right, so this one's a little bit more difficult to determine, because the first one hopefully was a little easier. We know we have time, so we have to focus on time, and it's one lap, so minutes. But let's read through down here. So they're going to give us reasons why we should choose randomly pick 55 students to run a lap around the track and measure their times. So looking through here, it says Boris is using a sample to determine something about a population. So we've talked a little bit about sample and population at this point in some of the videos. So when we're taking a survey or gathering data, we want to figure out how we're going to collect that information. So if we're thinking of a population, and his population is all of Lincoln High School students. So he wants to pick a sample, and his sample is 55 of all the students. So that's the basic idea here. Population is all of the people or whatever it is you're observing you could choose from. The sample is what you are choosing. So population is high school students at that high school, and his sample is the 55 students. When using a sample, it is best to use a random sample. This is a sample that's chosen by random chance, as in drawing names from a hat. A sample of volunteers is not a random sample. So we eliminate the following two choices. Ask for volunteers to run a lap and measure the times of 55 volunteers. The fact that they're volunteering means that they probably are runners already. So that's not really a true sample of how long it would take an average student at Lincoln High School to run a lap. Because if you're volunteering for something like this, it's probably something that you already like to do or that you already do. So now let's consider the two remaining choices. We have randomly pick 55 students to run the lap and around the track and measure their times, or they can give their own times. So if we let them measure their own times, there's a lot of error in there, because they could state times on accident the wrong way, or they may just state it the wrong way, on purpose, because they don't want to admit how long it actually took them, something along those lines. So we want to try to get the best data we can. So we want to watch these 55 students run the lap and measure their times ourselves. Or if someone else is helping us, have them do it. But having them state their own times, there's a lot of error that can happen there. So that's why we want to randomly pick students to run a lap around the track and measure their times ourselves. All right, so let's see if we can figure this out on the next page here. A scientist wants to find the average mass of a fish living in a large pond. Use the masses of a sample of fish from the pond to find the average mass. So mass has to do with weight. So we know we're not going to use, and here I'm going to cross these out. So we're not going to use hours. We're not going to use seconds, because those aren't weights. So we need to think about milligrams, grams, or kilograms. And this is just going back to when we were talking about units of measure with the metric system. So milligrams are very small. I believe when we did it, it was like a paper clip or something along those lines that they gave us. And I think a gram, I believe they said it was like 10 paper clips. I'd have to go back to those notes to see it. But milligram would probably be too small to measure for a fish. And it's a large pond, so probably a larger fish. Kilograms would be a little too big, just because those compare more to pounds than they would ounces, which is more what we're used to doing with measurement here. So grams would probably be the better option there. So now we need to choose, how are we going to choose our random sample of fish? So pick 2 fish from the shallow region of the pond and weigh each of them. Well, if they're in the shallow region, they're probably not the biggest fish. They're probably smaller fish. So that's not a very good sample of a large pond. So we're not going to use that one. Pick 25 fish from a shallow region of the pond and estimate their masses. So let's go back really quick to this one. Also, 2 is not a big enough sample because that's just not enough to figure out actual information about the full population of fish in this pond. So if we pick 25 fish, that's a pretty good sample. But then it says estimate their masses. So we're basically guessing at their masses. Well, we don't want to do that. Randomly choose 2 fish from the entire pond and estimate their masses. So the entire is actually getting better. Oh, this also says shallow region. We don't want shallow region. And pick 2. We don't like that. So randomly pick 2 fish. We don't like pick 2. The entire pond, this is getting more to what we want. Okay. But then estimate, that's not what we want. We don't want to estimate. We want to weigh each of them. So we're looking for entire pond, weigh each of them, pick 25. We want these things put together. So randomly pick 25 fish from the entire pond and weigh each of them. Oh, look at that. It's the very last one there. So ignore that. And we're gonna do this last one, and I'm gonna go with grams. So let's clear this and check. It didn't like grams. Let's see. Kilograms? Oh, I need to select all that apply. Jeez Louise. See, not reading the directions. Select all that apply. I would select milligrams, grams, and kilograms. Darn it. See, teacher not reading directions there. All right, let's go back. Let's try that again. So Marie wants to find the average height of students in 9th grade at Central High School. She will use the heights of 50 students in the 9th grade to find the average height. So which of these could be used? So all that apply, if we're thinking of height, then we want length. So pounds has to do with weight. Ounces also have to do with weight. We could do centimeters, kind of weird, but we could. Grams have to do with weight, but we could also do inches. So we could actually do both of these since we want all that apply. Centimeters would be probably odd to do in centimeters, but you could. All right, let's look at this one. So randomly pick 50 students. I like that. So randomly pick 50 from the 9th grade and have them state their own heights. Ooh, don't like that. What if they state it wrong? Some people might just kind of estimate like, oh, I think I'm 5'1", I think I'm 5'6", I think I'm 5'7". Well, let's have them do it on their own. Or maybe they don't know. If we ask them to say, how many centimeters tall are you? Do they know how many centimeters tall they are? Or are they going to have to convert that and figure it out? So there's a lot of error there. We don't want that one. So we're not going to pick this one. Randomly pick 50 students. Again, we like randomly pick 50 students. That's a pretty good sample. And measure their heights yourself. I like that. That's a good one. So I don't see anything wrong with this one. Let's read the other ones to make sure. Measure the heights of 50 volunteers. So I like the measure, the heights. We already said I like that one. 50 volunteers. I don't like 50 volunteers. So 50 is good, but volunteers, again, people volunteering tend to have a better view of whatever it is you're surveying. So students that are maybe very tall or maybe very short, kind of sensitive about their height, they may not volunteer because they don't want people to know how tall they are. or something along those lines. So we don't want to volunteer. That's the main thing. So ask for volunteers. Again, we don't want volunteers and we don't want them to state their own height. So we want to go with randomly, and I didn't cross these off as I was going. So randomly pick 50 students from the 9th grade and measure their heights ourselves. All right. So now let's choose. I gotta put my cursor there. Perfect. Okay. So let's go to the next one. It says, Garan, I think that's how you say that, wants to find the average time to take. It takes Northside High School students to run a lap around the track. So we're going back to running a lap around the track, which was the example. So he wants to consider a sample of students to find the average time. So we want time down here. So minutes would work. So we want minutes. Hours would work. Inches, that's a length. Meters, that's a length. Seconds would work. Probably be a very high number, but seconds would work. Which of the procedures below would be the best way to find the average time? So ask for 32 volunteers. Oop, we don't like volunteers. So as soon as I hear volunteer, I'm going to cross that off. Measure 4 times of 4 volunteers. Oh, I don't like that. 32 might be okay. That's an okay sample. This says 4 volunteers. That's not a big enough sample. Randomly pick 32 students. I like that. So we're randomly picking 32 students to run a lap around the track, and we're measuring their times ourselves. I like that one a lot. This next one says randomly pick 4. I don't like 4 students, and have them state their own times. Oop, I don't like that. All right. So we're going to check, check, check. And I like this one where we're randomly choosing 32 students and we're measuring their times ourselves. All right, clear. Let's go to the last one here. So we have a scientist wants to find the average weight of a fish living in a large pond. Oh, we're going back to that one that I messed up on because I didn't check all. So she will use the weights of 42 fish from the pond to find the average. So we already know she's choosing 42 fish. So all of these are going to say 42 in them. So we know that's our sample size. Now we need to go down here and we need to choose everything that could be weight. Seconds, that's time. Ounces, that's weight. Hours, that's time again. Minutes, that's time. So we know we're going to do pounds, ounces, and those are our 2 options here. All right, let's read through. Randomly pick 42 fish. I like randomly pick. That's good. So randomly pick. I like that wording. From the entire pond. Entire pond, that's another good one. And weigh each of them. I like that also. Them, or she's weighing them in this case. I'm saying she, it just said a scientist. From the entire pond. So we have entire pond again, but this one says estimate their weight. Oop, I don't like that one at all. We don't want to estimate. Pick 42 fish from the shallow region. So I don't like shallow region because that's not a good estimate of the entire pond. We want to pick some from everywhere in the pond, some from the shallow, some from the deep, some from kind of the midway, in between shallow and deep of the pond, and estimate their weight again. We don't like that. Pick 42 fish from the shallow region. Don't like that. I do like weigh each of them. Okay. And this says pick 42 fish. Doesn't say randomly pick 42 fish. So I'm not sure how she's picking them. If it's just one right after the other from the shallow region, since it's a little less random being all in the same region, but they're not using the word random. So we don't like these last 2. So the only one I really like is that first one there. So let's clear this and hit check. All right, we finished that one. Yay.